who am I? Who is Soraya? It was a very big wake-up call that I needed to start prioritizing myself. Wow, I'm so inspired. Like, I thought I had it bad. I feel like it's important for us to be open about what it is we carry and who we are. Literally, like, so aligned,
Yeah,
so synchronistic,
that's
and
how
just
it works.
perfect. This is being human. This is being human. This is being human.
Yeah.
Life is so tender, it's so delicate, it's so fragile.
So welcome.
Thank you.
We've been planning to have some kind of dialogue on camera like that for a little while. I'm glad that it's finally happening. And, I certainly always now surrender. It's been always the case in my life, but now I live in this surrender state more often than ever,
Mm.
where whatever happens, like if it didn't go how you planned it to go, there's a plan that you're not aware of then just yet. And at some point you will be, and you just need to surrender to what comes your way
Yeah.
and just take it as like the best case scenario.
I completely agree. This has been on standby for like 7, 8 months, and I actually haven't been back to Miami, and I was coming every month. And I think I met you in like May or June, somewhere around
Something like
there.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I came back July, and that's it. I haven't been back since. And now it is April.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
everything worked out how it should because I'm in a different space.
Yeah.
So much has happened since then as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm here to share.
And if we didn't go to both of us went to Bonia's birthday, this probably wouldn't even happened.
I agree because I was
know?
overwhelmed. Normally, if I share that I'm in a city and I have friends that I
get it.
haven't seen, they reach out.
I get it.
So I'll get overwhelmed. So it was literally like
I
so
get it.
aligned,
Yeah,
so synchronistic,
that's
and
how it
just
works.
perfect.
The more we allow it to unfold like that, the
Yeah.
more it's it happens like that for sure.
I completely agree. I mean, you just have to surrender to the process. And I'm in full surrender mode in general in the
Ma-
space that I'm in right now. So
Amazing.
yeah.
How long has it? How long have you been kind of bathing yourself in that state?
Hmm. So it is April and November 2021, my mom passed away. So in a few days, it will be 5 months since she passed. And I would say I started surrendering maybe around the time I met you. I was her caretaker and I started surrendering to the fact that I also had to start living my life. And it's very hard for a person who is a caretaker to come to terms with enjoying life again. There's some bit of guilt that occurs in the system and your psyche and your heart, um, because you're trying to prioritize yourself, and it's a very disconnected feeling because you don't know what it means to prioritize yourself again. So you're toying with so many things. So there came an event in August. It actually had to do with plant medicine. And I said, you know what? I know that my mom would want me to start living again. And she was healthy at the time.
Mm.
But I always knew deep down inside that her chapter would soon come to a close.
Mm.
She wasn't suffering from anything directly like terminal,
Mm.
but she had severe Alzheimer's and she was on her uh, last stage, so to speak. She wasn't intubated and she didn't have like any breathing support or like respiratory support that she had to use every day. But I just internally, the more connected you are with self and the universe, you start creating this type of intuition of what's to come,
Mm.
and everything unfolded the way it should. So I began surrendering a few months before she passed, not knowing at all that that was going to happen soon. But I guess I'd be lying if I say that. Something intuitively told me like things are shifting.
Mm-hmm. And the first kind of glimpses of that surrender came when your cup of taking too much was already full. Is that kind of the?
Yeah, I mean, I moved to Colombia, October 2019, right before pandemic. I moved my mom and I there so that she can have a better chapter of life.
Mm.
I was able to hire a full-time nurse, a live-in nurse, and I was still part-time caretaker. So I would take the nurse's off days, like her shift. So it would be consecutively like 8 days every month. But I was traveling intercontinentally between the United States and Colombia because my life and my whole career, my resume, everything I've done is in the US, my whole job, everything, my finances, and also my father. And my mom was in Colombia.
Mhm.
And as time passed, I had a situation come up with the nurse. She was stealing from us, and it shifted so many things for me, trust and completely depending on counting on someone honestly and wholeheartedly. And I realized that I had given her way too much power and leverage of our family dynamic and our home in Colombia. And it really made me step back. And I would say that was between March and May of 2021. Um, and then finally, there came to a point where she actually got COVID. And it was during a time that I was just very heartbroken, not knowing how to fire her and who I would have to replace her
Mhm.
and what I was going to do. So I ended up spending 5 weeks consecutively with my mom caretaking. My boyfriend at the time helped me, but really it was just pretty much me and the support I had from some friends via text. And I was extremely, extremely overwhelmed because um, when you don't plan to be a single mother and you're a young adult and you're being thrown an adult that is a childlike adult, it's even more difficult because it's not something you expect to do. But I've always been all hands on deck and very invested in my mom's life and her health. But after the 5 weeks, I actually suffered from like a lower back situation, and it made me reflect. Like I wasn't eating, I wasn't sleeping properly. I was extremely, extremely overwhelmed. And here's not to say that I wouldn't doing a thousand times over for her because I currently still love her. She's my angel, so I love my mom wholeheartedly. Um, However, it was a very big wake up call that I needed to start prioritizing myself because I was completely losing myself. I had no structure regimen for myself, but I had it all for her. And then I realized I need help and I need to fire and, you know, let go of that is not serving the family, my mom anymore. Um, she also had left my mom alone. Sometimes I find out through different ways that she had been stealing money as well. And it was just a very chaotic time for me during the springtime, actually, right before I met you. And then I finally was able to get with an agency nurse and do things the right way. The previous nurse was a referral. But that's kind of when I decided, like, what am I doing? I spent 9 months in pandemic, like during pandemic in Colombia, and I had to make that extremely difficult decision. Do I go back to the States where my dad is in New York City? They're together still, like at this point. They were never separated.
Mhm.
They were just physically separated.
Mhm.
And then I had to choose, do I go back to New York City or do I stay in Colombia, not knowing when I can see my father again, who was by himself completely? So there's been a lot that was placed on my plate. And as a human that I've had to be in the life that I've had and the journey that I've walked is I fight or flight or problem solve. I'm a really good problem solver. Um, but I never was good at problem solving for me. And I wasn't good at prioritizing for me until I started seeing what was going on. My mental health, my emotional health, my psychological health, my food, my rest, everything. I couldn't shower. I felt very overwhelmed. So that's kind of when things shifted. It was a wake up call. I let go of the nurse. I got a new nurse. And then I started to live life again,
Mm.
trying my best not to have some sort of like feeling of that guilt. Like I had underlying, I shouldn't be doing this. I should focus.
Mm.
But there's nothing wrong in what I was doing. It's just your psyche.
Right, right. Your response. Well, feel you. Yeah. Um, your your dad. So I'd like to hear. So that's the probably the the moment after which you really started to change the trajectory of your path. What led to it? Give me a few like instrumental details of that path that looking back, you connecting those dots, and that makes sense why it all led you to something like this.
Um, about a year ago, I reconnected with a friend of mine, and in doing so, I was led to the soul family that I didn't know I was missing. Part of my soul family is here in Miami, and it's the first soul family that I've had, that I've sat with and experienced different plant medicine journeys, or also physical spiritual retreats, like in other countries with. And this is someone that I met in LA who I love so much, and I realized like, wow, they are family. Like here we are reincarnated in these bodies and in this new chapter of life, and we're supposed to be around each other, and we love each other so much. Fast forward, um, we celebrated her husband's birthday, and it was such an amazing time, and also a beautiful awakening. And then about 6 months later, I was invited to join them to sit in ayahuasca, with ayahuasca in Costa Rica. And in order for me to do that, I had to get a new nurse. Also, I forgot to mention previously to that, it was her birthday as well.
Mm.
And that actually sped up the process of me getting a new nurse and doing things really well, putting cameras all over the house and making sure my mom was completely supported and was safe before moving on to continue living my life. But I would say that kind of catapulted me being able to step into living life again. So I was able to go away for her birthday and surprise her for her birthday. That was beautiful. And that was in June. And then come end of August, that's when we went to Costa Rica.
Mm.
And ironically, that's when my mom started getting a cough that we thought was just a cough. We later find out that she basically had walking pneumonia. So, like, it was there, an underlying issue, but she didn't show signs of it other than a bit of a wet cough. Um, so, yeah, I would say the medicine always shows you the way. If you've sat with plant medicine, then you know to surrender is a whole journey on its own. And their journey begins even before you sit with Mama Aya and you reunite with her again. Um, and I think in that moment, I remember I didn't really take off much in my journey, but I did feel her love. I felt her vine of love just holding me and seeing me and letting me know that I was being cared for. And I think that's when the universe and my mom also felt Soraya's in good hands. She has community now. She has love. She has support. And the closer I got to my soul family and connected with them, in my eyes, the more my mom's health started declining because it was time for her to go. So it's all metaphorical and it's a beautiful poetry, sort of speak. Um, but the both times that I started expanding my wings is when my mom's condition shifted. The first time was when I moved out of our home in New York City. For the first time, I'd never been away from my family. I come back a month later and my mom had lost her memory. In a month, she didn't know I was her daughter. Fast forward, now I'm older. Now I'm in a very different chapter. I'm in a different country. And I'm starting to reconnect to who am I? Who is Soraya? And that started in August, end of August 2021. I started reconnecting with what is it that I like? What do I enjoy? What am I doing with my life? How am I serving the collective, the world, the universe? And most importantly, how am I serving myself?
Um, and since then, what has evolved in your life? Like, what are the things that help to manifest that new you? Like, what are the changes that you've gone through? Maybe things you got into. Um, yeah, tell me a little bit basically about your journey since that moment till about now. What has happened?
Um, When we were in Costa Rica and we were going to sit with Aya, I I was very upset because and I was hard with myself as I usually am because I felt like I couldn't fully connect. And we had 3 ceremonies, but by the third ceremony, our maestro spoke to me, let me know that what was going on and what I was feeling was valid. There was a block that had occurred, and that night, I believe it was out. Um, but I went through my own ceremonies and I realized that I don't know how to not be of service. It's extremely difficult for me not to care and love for those around me. I love people. I love humans. I love love. I love helping, supporting, extending an arm or my feelings, a shoulder, anything that I can. But I also am not of service for myself. And that has to do with my own self love and my own history, my upbringing, and everything. But it did show me that it takes a lot for me to surrender. And the only way to go about life is to truly trust and surrender. Because when you're in fear, that's the opposite of trusting. You're already creating something, an energy about the situation before it's happened because you're just not letting go. And I've been so afraid to just let go. So I've, during this time, I just recently got back from being with my soul family for a month. And besides the ceremonies that we had, the whole month was a whole ceremony for me. I wasn't able to grieve my mom when she first passed, like properly grieve. I was with my father. We flew in from New York City. She was in the hospital. But to be with your parent and your other parent is dying and she's holding on, she was literally holding on for me because I was crying, is it's very interesting when you can't get a hug from your father and grieve and cry in their arms. It's very painful. Um, it makes you feel so alone because there's soul family and there's immediate family, and they're the ones that raised me. So there's really no one in this world that can replace that hug that comes from a father or mother. I also had to make the most unselfish decision of my life. And by the second day, I saw that her health was deteriorating even more. When I got there, she was a cadaver. Then she felt me and her face flushed and filled up again. She was sulking in when I got there. And then within 12 hours, it was filled in and the morphine had worn off and she was starting to connect. Yet when I was first arrived, she was a zombie with her eyes to the sky and completely like not there. But when I cried, even even when she was visually unconscious, her emotions were so conscious that she teared. And I couldn't believe. I I couldn't believe the depth of the love that parents have for us, those that are able to love and support us. My mom was holding on for me. And my boyfriend at the time, his mother had just lost her mother 2 days prior. The, the day I landed, she lost her mother. I, when she came to visit the next day, she told me, "Your mom is holding on because of your pain. You have to speak to her. And if you truly love her, you're going to let her know that she can go." I sat with that guidance and I knew, I felt it in my center of centers that it was true, that she was holding on for me, for the love. Stage 5 Alzheimer's, didn't know my name, but could still react with her eyes with these micro gestures of love and have a tiny little tear come out, hearing my dad and I cry when we first arrived. Wow, how can a love be so deep, so beautiful, and so unselfish? So I decided what was best was to have like a ceremony for her surrounded by the people that came to visit her at the hospital, where I put some music to help her release, let go, and I played a song that a friend of mine sent sent me in a voice note and told me to play for her. And I told her I was so proud of her, that I loved her. I expressed my immense gratitude for the mother, sister, wife, daughter, friend that she's been, but that it was her time to fly. And my sister committed suicide in 2016, so she was already an angel. Her mom was already an angel and father as well. And my grandmother passed away July 2021. She was also an angel. My grandfather's up there. And I told her, you can't make me look bad because everyone's waiting for you. So now you have to expand those glamorous and beautiful wings and go up to the heavens above, where they're all waiting for you. And I had to tell the hospital to give her the palliative morphine to allow for her body, if it was already in that mode, to let go. Once paired with the palliative morphine, then she would go. And at first, it was very difficult because you almost feel like you're playing God. And I don't mean that in a good way. You're literally deciding someone's life. It's the equivalent of taking someone off life support. By the second day, when I saw her, she went from taking 5 seconds to breathe and her chest would rise while she had an oxygen mask on. She needed it at this point. And on the second day, it took 12 to 15 seconds for one inhale. 12 to 15 seconds just watching her chest just rise in order for her to live in that moment. And I'm like, I can't let her live like this. Her integrity, like the person that she is, she doesn't deserve this. And I know she's holding on for me. And I told her, this is the most unselfish thing you can do is go. If you love me, I want you to be free. And she did. Life is different now. The person that you met a couple of months ago, it's different. I have an immense amount of gratitude for the mother that raised me. Even if she was erratic and compulsive with her emotions, she had the biggest heart ever. And because of her, I am the woman that I am. So I wouldn't change one thing. But I can't express it enough for anyone who sees this and anyone who feels called to. Whoever you have by your side, extend your love to them because you just never know. And when they're gone, they're not on the other side waiting for you. And I know her spirit and her energy of the guardian angel that she is very much around me. But physically, my mom is gone. She will always live here and always live here. But I can no longer kiss her forehead, change her diaper, carry her in my arms. And this is just the next chapter of my life. After her passing, things became very minute and minuscule in my life. And I had no patience for hearing the disconnection of the people around me and how they process life. And I don't mean that in a judgmental way, but I think one can understand that I just really didn't have the bandwidth or patience to hear things that just didn't matter anymore. Life is so tender, it's so delicate, it's so fragile. And until you experience a big loss in your life, you really don't know, you really don't understand. You can empathize and you can put yourself in someone's shoes. And I would only beg that if anyone sees this, they too can imagine, wow, I lost my mom or dad or grandparent, whoever raised them, that means the world to them. What would I feel? And then I would hope that they would ask themselves, what can I do different in how I treat them, speak to them, or appreciate them? So here I am now. I'm somewhat free in a sense. However, my dad now has early onset dementia, and he's going down the same exact path as my mom. Same one she did in 2014. And I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty rough for me because I wasn't able to even process my mom's loss. Recently, it had been a year since my friend's husband's birthday, and it was his birthday once again. And they're my soul family, and I can always turn to them. But I've always avoided being a burden in people's lives because I've always lived a very traumatic and chaotic life, way more than that of the average. I remember when I went to an appointment to see a doctor, she said, I heard what happened with your mom, and I'm sorry, but you've literally lived a life that many adults still haven't even lived based on all the things that I've encountered. It's really heavy and it hurts a lot, but I've always chosen to look at the bright side as much as possible. And it's what's gotten me through to this point. So, as I mentioned recently at my friend's husband's birthday, I had to contain and hold back from expressing my tears because I didn't want to be a burden in a space where we're celebrating someone's life. Just wasn't the right time. But in doing so, I fooled myself because I'm very genuine and very transparent. So I was avoiding looking at my friend in the eyes and her husband, and finally just having her presence around me. And I was starting to get emotional. Having to hide it from her made me emotional as well. And as I was surrounded by five goddesses that held this beautiful space for me, she told me to just let go and feel and grieve what I hadn't grieved of the loss of my mother. It's so deeply important as humans that we truly process what we feel. Because every emotion that we carry in our heart and soul is a bag of rocks that can easily be put down if you just take the moment to unhinge it from that, whatever you're carrying it on. Just have to let it go and put it down. Give it your love, give it your gratitude for what it's given you, but you can go on and continue down your path without having to carry all of that. And I had been carrying that already for now, at that point, for 3.5 months. So I told her I didn't want to let go because I didn't want to be loud. It's literally her husband's birthday right outside the door. And instead, she closed the door and said, let it go. I can't express the urgency and need I had to let that go. To let go that my mom died and I haven't been able to cry. And I didn't feel fully supported or seen or understood. To let go of my tough armor and just be human. She gave that to me. And so did the five other goddesses around me that just held space so beautifully and let me let out sounds, tears, agonized screams. It was very cathartic and it was very necessary. So from that alone, that was its own ceremony. And I think from that point on, I can say the ceremonies continued for the next month. And it really showed me how important it is to have a solid community around you that sees you truly for who you are, understands that there is no malice in what you're doing, and that it's pure hearted and genuine and true. A community that just allows you to be free, a soul family that just held me. No judgment, no expectations. And I can't express my gratitude enough for that because it's allowing me to step into the role that I'm in now. I feel I'm in a point in my life where I've avoided being alone because of everything that's happened to me. I never wanted to be alone. And I continuously was in relationships with a boyfriend back to back 2 years, 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, 4 years, because I was alone when I was a kid when my sister became schizophrenic and ended up running away from home and living in the streets of New York City. I was alone as a kid when my mom had to go look for her and was distraught and in pain and in so much anguish and despair because she lost her daughter and didn't understand what was going on. I felt alone when my dad was supporting her. I felt alone that my sister was not by my side anymore and she was my second mother. And this theme of being alone continuing the story I told myself was that I had to be around people all the time because it helped me avoid what I was feeling. It helped me avoid to be alone with those emotions and that pain and process all of that. So I became a social butterfly and I was surrounded by people all the time and always on and active, and the switch was on and it was almost a performance and there was a facade, and then I'd come home and the mask would come off. And I started this at age 12. Now fast forward, there is no mask and I do find true happiness. But I have the courage now to just step into the pain and fully envelop myself in it, dive deep into it head first and feel. And now I'm in a chapter of my sovereignty because I don't have my sister. I don't have my mom. And now I'm losing my dad. And I know it's extremely important to experience this part of this chapter alone because I don't know what that means. And it doesn't mean to run away from society and the world and turn my back on them and put myself in a corner, in a hole, while people are reaching out or trying to support me. No, it just means to give time to my heart and soul to fall in love with me and embrace who I am, because I've had resentment towards the big heart that I have and how deep the emotions are that run through me. And yet, that's actually such a great thing to have, but I've always frowned upon it because of society. So now I'm in a space of just gathering my bearings and understanding myself more and learning to be free and happy with self. And this journey has just begun. I still have some loose ends to tie, and so much, so much, so much work to do. Um, and even recently, I went through a little bit of a ceremony with my soul family, and I realized, just like when you're in a riptide in the ocean, you cannot fight the current. The more you fight, the more debilitating and dangerous it is. You will not win. Just let go and surrender.
You ask yourself, why you? Why you have to go through your journey like that? Because it's directly tied to your purpose.
Yeah. I mean, in the conscious and spiritual community, it's believed that you actually choose your own life and your parents, and you choose everything that happens to you. This isn't a um, pre-made destiny. This is something that is actually chosen from self, from our soul, from when we were just a spirit finding a new life and physical form, right? And before I even heard of this, my whole life, I'm like, why me? Why? I see people having somewhat normal lives because normal really doesn't exist, but I want that too. I wish that. Why so much pain? Why so much fighting? Why so much struggle? I was born in New York City, the concrete jungle where you fight or flight. Like those are the options. You have to stand up for yourself or get run over. Simple. And then as time passed, and I would say a turning point for me was 2018 when I first sat with ayahuasca in Peru. I started having more like winks from the universe and more connections and more just so many synchronicities because I started waking up outside of what the 3D world was and seeing that there was more. And it's not happening to me, but it's happening for me. It's still it's still something I struggle to wrap my head around, to understand that I chose this, that I chose all of this for the purpose. And I know that it ends up being that. In the end, it all has to do with the essence of human, of who I am, and the heart that I have, and that resentment that I've had, that about being so sensitive, so passionate, so emotional, and in society equals so intense, so dramatic, so exaggerated. But who are you to tell me how deep my pain and love is when I'm the one living it? It's my truth, my honest and genuine truth. And I realize that I've always said, I was put in this world to make an impact in society. And I've always strongly believed that. I have a voice and I'm not afraid to use it. And I have a story and I'm not afraid to share not only one, but all of it. Because I am who I am and where I am because of my whole journey. And looking back at it, at hindsight, this was supposed to happen the way it was. And that's the beauty of it all. Where I am now is because of what's happened. I was fortunate enough to not pick up any vices like alcohol and drugs. I chose dancing in New York City nightlife, dancing my little butt off every weekend. I think that's a healthy vice. But I was hiding behind dancing and listening to music and all this living a social life that we all do some way at some point in our adulthood. And I'm just grateful because it got me to this point that I am to here today. It, it couldn't have happened in any other way, and it wasn't supposed to. It's allowed me to be able to look at things in the half glass full perspective. As hard as it is, I can say now my mom is at peace. I can say now when I get a message from the nurse, I don't have to worry that she's telling me she's dying because that's what I felt all the time. I had to think I'm away on a vacation. What if my mom is dying? I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't do this. I shouldn't enjoy that. Like there's so many overwhelming emotions that cause so much anxiety inside of me in my day to day. Being with friends felt wrong because I should be beside her, even though she had a nurse. Because God forbid, she aspirates and chokes on her food and can die. Like, no one should live like this. As painful as I still express it to be, my mom is in such a better place. And she is now the angel that she truly always was and deserved to be. And she's free, just like my sister. So one can dwell on why did this happen to me and why did I choose this life? But there's so many other beautiful things that come with what my life has brought me. So many experiences that many haven't experienced. Can't even fathom what it would be like to experience as painful and deep as it was and excruciating. And I'm here though. And I'm here to show the world that no matter what you go through, you have the opportunity to truly look at the world in a different way, in a positive way. And when you do that, you raise the frequency of everything around you and you start getting blessings from the universe. I am blessed to breathe. I'm blessed to eat, to sleep. I don't have bombs going over my head like in other worlds and other countries do. I know where my parents are, even if they pass and one is ill. I have a home. I'm I'm 75% richer than most of the world. Like, and we don't even realize these things. If you have two arms, two legs, you're blessed, two eyes. We take all these things into such, we're like spoiled. We don't appreciate it. And we just feel we're supposed to have two arms, two legs, two eyes, and a healthy heart. No, no, not everyone gets that privilege. And yet we forget to wake up every day and hug ourselves and say, because this body is a vehicle that's moving us through this treacherous journey. And this heart is what's helping us feel everything. This mind is helping us put the pieces together and also create this ego and pride that gets in the way. And it's all just a beautiful process of being human. And we have the power to look at things in such a different perspective. And if I can influence anyone or inspire anyone with my story, that's all I wish, to shift the way things are being looked at on a day to day basis. I remember a month and a half ago, I had booked a job for my first big movie role. And I had to get to the gym and start working out again. And I was in New York City and it's 12 degrees out. So I'm wearing layers upon layers upon layers to just get to the gym and take off the layers upon layers upon layers to work out, to then put layers upon layers to go home. And I went on my IG story where I always share my truth and my journey. And I was I went to say, "Oh my God, I hate working out in the winter." And then I actually caught myself. I'm like, "How dare you? How dare you? You're complaining that you have the chance to work out, that you can pay for the membership, and you can move your healthy body? Wow, humans, we're so interesting." And in that moment, I was able to flip the switch. And I said, I just caught myself. And I was about to share with you guys that how annoying it was to work out in the winter in New York City. Then I realized I am so privileged to be able to do that and to go home and eat food that I cooked because I had the space to do that and the gas to do that. And the water's hot because of the electricity. Hello. We are surrounded by blessings on our day to day lives, and we don't even take a moment to open up our hearts and souls and really look around and see what we have, our families, and some don't have families. And yet, sometimes even that alone can be a gift because families can be painful and some families can drag you down. And so, while one person who doesn't have a family wishes they did, there's a person in this world that is being outcasted by their own family and feels like the black sheep and feels disconnected and has been alienated from their parents and hasn't talked to them. And yet, there's that person that wishes they had a family. Glass half full. There's blessings and beauty in everything. We just have to clean the glasses and learn to look at things a different way.
I'm so grateful that this is happening. Like that, I'm so grateful for you to be here. I'm so grateful for this beautiful moment of deep vulnerable share. Thank you so much for shining your light, for strong and willing to show the world the other way of being.
Thank you for creating this space and allowing me to share and be and hopefully inspired. That's all I wish in this world.
Uh, What a beautiful I think this is a beautiful ending to um 45-minute
That was
recording.
really wild that it was perfect.
Uh,
I told you I had a lot. I tried my best to be as concise as possible for post production reasons.
I really love your ability to express. It's not just ability to communicate; it's ability to express emotions and really talk about them eloquently. Yeah,
You.
yeah,
I
yeah.
realized that that resentment that I'd had, I was spiraling in February when it was my mom's third month anniversary coming up, and I was contemplating taking my life. And I spoke to someone after a 3.5 hour call with a best friend of mine who just took me out of that very dark space. And I realized that my whole life I've had resentment for having a big heart. I had no idea. I've actually been angry at myself for feeling so much.
You didn't accept your a big part of yourself.
It's my superpower. I had no idea to feel. Feel deep, deep, deep as the deepest rivers and oceans and water in the world. Like that is my my essence.
It's
And everything happened how it was supposed to because that's just divine timing and the universe. But yeah, I'm actually now fully embracing the person and woman and heart that I have and woman that I am. And I've now stepped into that.
welcome to new you.
Thank you. I'm
Right.
so happy to be here. She's been inside waiting. I
Yeah.
just had no idea.
Yeah, trying to
I was like,
shout as loud as I can, and you've been busy navigating
yeah,
life like
yeah.
that.
I've been swimming against the current and now I'm
Yeah,
floating on my back going,
yes,
what island is next?
exactly, exactly,
Yeah. So,
exactly. It's that's the free will that we can exercise how we navigate the flow. We can go against, we can navigate, we can really enjoy the ride, we can really enjoy the flow of things.
and this
Yeah.
is just a big roller coaster ride. Some have it on land, some have it in the amusement park, but wow, full of emotion, journeys, experiences, heartbreak, happiness, joy, sadness, trauma. Here we are.
Do you think everyone like looking reflecting and kind of comparing my experience, life experience, the emotional journey or like the emotional part of my experience is so much less um expressed itself, but expressed itself in so many other different ways. Um I think the moments like that are important because you get to share those depth of experiences that other people don't have, not because they haven't really been living their life fully, but because they've,
I just
you
haven't
know,
experienced it.
yeah, they've meant to be experiencing something else potentially. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, everyone's journey is different and everyone's depth is different and everyone's expression of feelings is different. But I think the more that you are in integrity with self and honest with who you truly are and push aside the self-limiting beliefs which are mostly caused by family, environment, and society, you really get to tap into your center of centers and know who you are. And not everyone is going to cry, but I do recommend uh, if you have not cried, it's time to cry. It's okay to cry. And you can do it by yourself. You know, every tear is like sweat from your brain that it's just releasing and it creates new neural pathways for you to have the availability and the space to allow other things to come in because you're letting go. Like when you're working out and you're sweating, it's the same thing.
Mm,
And tears does the same thing
mm,
for your psyche.
mm.
It actually really helps. There are people that are going to have more tears than others. And then there's also, we have to remember there has to be a balance as well. I'm a very joyful person because of all the pain that I've encountered. And I've encountered so much of it that I don't want to live life in a low frequency. Why? For every person I come and encounter with and cross paths with, I can change their life with a smile. You don't know with one thing holding the door, saying thank you, saying hello. We don't know as humans what we're all going through. But I've always chosen to have like a, that approach of like my experience in my life will not be a burden for the experience of others because I worked in so many types of service. So I was just at a level 10 of excitement because I'm able to give an experience to that person. And that's when I work service. I'm no longer in service per se, servicing the collective and the world with
Yeah.
my emotions.
Yeah.
No pressure.
We are always
We are always of service, but like, I'm not in retail anymore. I'm not in hospitality,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that type of service.
Unconscious maybe.
Yes,
Or
that,
not
that,
as
that,
conscious, right?
yes, yes. We're just clock in and clock out type
Yeah.
of service.
Right.
And
A
literally,
little bit of a
time card.
different type of service.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a whole different type of service, but yet still, that's a whole different type of service. But yet still, my interactions with humans were that if I can bring joy or an experience in your life and create a memory, God, what an honor that would be. What an honor it would be to shift something inside of your heart and soul just because I smiled at you, acknowledged you, said hello, said good morning. Could do one thing a day. It can literally change someone's life. And and that's the best part. It's kind of like being an anonymous, um, like you're donating an anonymous amount of money to, a charity and nobody knows. And it's like $10 million and you get to live anonymously knowing you helped that ship. No one knows. It's not about that.
Mhm.
But there is that ripple effect, what you just did, that change just by that little act of kindness. Because we're humans and we're not even being human anymore. We're stuck behind a cell phone scrolling on Instagram timelines and stories. We lack the ability of being present with one another. And so, because of that, we can't even see one another for who they are without the judgments. Oh, you're crazy for feeling that. Are you fucking nuts? Like, why would you say that? Oh, you're such a psycho. How heavy are these words? We don't need to judge one another. We're all humans. We're all made up of the same thing: skin, blood, matter, cells, heart.
Yeah. Um, I'm really glad that we got to really connect deeper. I mean, we literally had a very short encounter for 2 hours, 3 hours, something like that,
Yeah.
right?
And it wasn't like consistently for the
No,
straight 3 hours we were
no,
talking the
no,
whole time.
no.
But we were in a great environment with
Yeah,
great people
yeah,
and great energy. And this is what happens,
yeah,
you know? Thank you for allowing me to share my story and open up. And thank you for receiving this and creating this space for this.
yeah. Thank you for expressing yourself. You know, yeah, it was a clear message for me, um, right around the time we met that I need to help you share your voice in my way somehow for some reason. Um,
Well, that we
and
just
now
did.
I know why. Now I know why. I know exactly why.
Yeah, I think when we met also because everything was kind of like the end chapter of my mom. For those that had followed me on Instagram and knew me through my stories, they knew my stories. I've shared all of it.
Yeah.
I'm a very open book because I feel like it's important for us to be open about what it is we carry and who we are.
Mhm.
Because everyone in society is in like a zombie,
Yeah.
robotic mode, you know? That's not being human. This is
Yeah.
being human.
Yeah.
This is being human. This is being human.
Yeah.
Those beautiful elements of being human. And it's important that we bring those out by sharing each other's stories because there's things that I've heard from other people where I'm like, wow, I'm so inspired. Like, I thought I had it bad. And when I hear other people, I'm like, ah, I'm so privileged in my own life and the way it happened.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Wow.
But only by sharing and hearing one another are we able to reflect and look back at what we've had and what we don't have. That can also be good too.
That concludes. Wow. Thank you. This was so much more.